Next, does Canada's healthcare system need to be fixed? We look at what can be done with the system bogged down.
My wife needed a bunionectomy, simple procedure. She waited 2.5 years on the surgical waiting list, never got it. By the time she got here, she basically had to get a titanium toe because the joint had deteriorated to the point where it was gone. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing Canadian healthcare. It's actually pretty good if you don't need it, okay? It's only if you need it that you find out it isn't.
The disease killing Canadian healthcare. That's the title of a speech that Rituparna Basu gave tonight in Toronto. She's an analyst with the Ayn Rand Center and joins me now in studio. Thanks very much for joining us. So tell me, what's the speech?
Well, it's called the disease killing Canadian healthcare. I mean, I think everybody would agree that Canadian healthcare is lacking in many, many ways. If you just compare it to, for example, the United States, where I'm from, the average wait time in Canada to see a specialist is 4 months. And in the United States, it's 18 days. It's less than 3 weeks. There's all sorts of problems in Canadian healthcare. And so what I talked about tonight is how do we make Canadian healthcare better? How do we make it so that it lives up to its potential? And my answer was, you know what? It's not right that the government is controlling Canadian healthcare the way it is. I mean, you guys have socialized medicine. What you guys need is a market. You need to free the healthcare market.
Now, it's interesting that you're coming from California to give this lecture here because, of course, you've got Obamacare that's
Yes.
moving you towards a less freer version of what you're advocating for?
Yes, so I think American healthcare remains the best healthcare system in the world. If you think about it in terms of the quality, certainly we can get care faster, certainly survival rates for things like cancer are higher in the United States. But yes, our healthcare system is also deteriorating, and I think it's precisely because we are moving towards the Canadian healthcare system, which is the single-payer socialized medicine, and American healthcare is suffering because of it too.
Now, the one talk that everyone here in Canada has that I think a lot of people acknowledge it's inevitable, but how inevitable and what the give and take will be is where a lot of the conflict lies, is moving towards a two-tier system where those people who are sort of on the fringe or can't afford or don't want to are still going to be in the socialized system, but everyone else can say, I don't like that 4 months that you're talking about there.
Right.
I've worked hard so I can look after my family. I want to pay to not jump that queue, but to go with a private provider. Do you think that's more along the direction Canada should be heading?
Well, certainly that's an important first step. I mean, I think it's a really ugly strain of socialized medicine that, okay, you want a public system, but then you're effectively trapping people in it, saying it's illegal for you to go out of that system, which means you're condemning them to waiting 4 months in pain and agony. You know, their quality of life is impacted, their economic productivity is impacted. That's not something that you should wish on anyone.
Now, I'm saying that it's viewed as inevitable here. We'll go to two-tier. Maybe I'm not being completely fair because, you know, a lot of people want to fight that inevitability. And in some sense, so it seems we're naturally going towards more freedom. But then at the same time, we know we're seeing more and more government involvement in our lives just over the decades in Western countries. It seems that's the way America's going. I mean, do you have hope? Are you optimistic that what you're advocating for might happen in the years to come, or is it getting worse, at least in the public debate?
Certainly it's possible for things to get better, but it definitely is a challenge. And I think the first thing people need to realize is, you know, what makes a healthcare system good? Because in America, we've got all sorts of problems. In Canada, we've got all sorts of problems. And what does make healthcare good is when it's run like a business, when it's profit-driven, when it's in a market. And that's exactly what Canada doesn't have, and that's what it needs to really live up to its potential. I mean, you have 40,000 Canadians leaving Canada every year trying to go to America to get their health care. Now, that's great for those 40,000 Canadians if they can afford it, but we should want the Canadian healthcare system to be so good that people don't have to leave it, that the people who can't afford it are still able to get great care. And for that, you need a market.
So that doesn't harm the Americans. I mean, at the end of the day, the people who are providing the service are benefiting from those 40,000 customers heading down south.
No, what everyone should be advocating for in America and in Canada is a free market in healthcare. Now, we are a little freer in the United States, but we also have a lot of government control, which is why we're seeing a lot of the same problems Canadians are. But if you look at the freer elements, say something like LASIK surgery, right, to fix your eye, so you get your, you don't have to wear glasses anymore.
It's covered by some people's work plans here, but for some people it's not covered at all.
Yeah, it's one of the freer areas of healthcare in America. And what you've really seen in it over time in the last 15 years since this procedure has been is that it's been mostly unregulated, and you've seen prices radically come down. You've seen the quality go way up. More and more people can afford it. And that's the kind of thing we can see in all areas of American and Canadian healthcare if we let it. But instead, in Canada, what you have is people waiting 4 months for a hip, to get their hip replaced. That's not acceptable.
Now, I know you're a California-based analyst. I want to ask you, what inspired you to first look at the Canadian model?
In the United States, a lot of people want to move towards the Canadian system. A lot of people idolize it, saying, that's the right system. And so it's really important to did you guys get it right? Because in America, we're slowly moving towards what you guys have done, which is single-payer health care. But if you look at it, I talk to people all the time from Canada, there's a lot of real problems in terms of quality. The wait times are really difficult for people. People have to wait a long time, and then people die waiting sometimes. And that can't be a model that anybody should want to emulate.
Okay, before I let you go, can you tell us the name of the group that's brought you here, what their website is, so if anyone wants to see the speech and follow your work, they know where to go?
Sure. So the Toronto Objectivist Committee is the one that hosted me tonight, and if you just Google the disease-killing Canadian healthcare, you should be able to find their website and find a video.
All right, fantastic, Ms. Basu. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Folks, coming up, did you catch Toronto's mayor on Late Night last night? I'll give my take on Rob Ford's Jimmy Kimmel appearance. But first, deer problems, how activists are putting deer maybe before people in this small British Columbia town.